Come play with us, Danny. Come host your own virtual online party with us, Danny. You can gaslight, gatekeep, and girlboss with us forever and ever and ever.
I got some LuLaRoe in the trunk of my car. Hello, Champagne Dreamers. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. I don't know how you found me, but welcome. Please stick around. Hit that subscribe button down there so you can become part of the Champagne Dreamer family. In this video, we're going to get controversial at the gig. We are going to talk about MLMs. Not in just a sort of distant, dissociative kind of way. We're going to talk about my personal experiences with MLMs. That's right. Your girl has been a CEO. I've been a girl boss. I have joined 3 different MLMs, and we're going to talk about my experiences, and we're going to talk about how I think the discussion around MLMs is a little bit reductive. I think that they absolutely can be predatory, but I think there's more to it than that. And I want to talk about my experience because I know that sometimes people just hear MLM and they immediately shut down. And I'm not saying they're great, and I'm not trying to change your mind, but I think we can bring some nuance to the conversation. So if you are interested in that, then stick around because we're getting into it right now. Alright, so yes, we are going to talk about MLMs, and we're going to talk about them from my perspective as somebody who has been an MLM independent consultant, independent contractor, a beauty-tainer, one might say. They all have their own little descriptions for what their people are called, but basically you're an independent contractor who is selling products on behalf of another company. So you are not employed by them, you don't get any benefits, and it's just a way for you to kind of have your own business. That's something that people who are anti-MLM love to talk about all the time, is that they pump it up as you have your own business. And in a way, it's not a lie. It is kind of running your own business. And that's where some of the yuck comes in. Now, I'm not saying MLMs are great. I watched that LuLaRoe documentary on Amazon Prime, thank you very much. And I was shocked and appalled. I have never been involved with LuLaRoe, and that's why I think that there are different, how do we want to say it, levels of evil. I think that not all MLMs are created the same. Some are more manipulative, some are a little bit more dastardly in how they encourage people to be part of them. And so I just want to talk about them. So let's get in and start with my first MLM. So my first MLM is the classic. I joined Avon when I was in grad school. Now, the reason why is just because I loved Avon products. I have used Avon. My family bought Avon for years and years and years. I grew up with Avon. Some of my first makeup as I was like building a costume kit and all this kind of stuff was from Avon. I loved it. I had their chapsticks, I had their bubble bath, I had their colognes. When I was an angsty teenager and I was trying to cover up BO with like too much cologne, I got it all from Avon. I loved it. And you know what? I think that Avon is different from a lot of MLMs. I mean, there's still that sort of like hustle mentality, girl boss mentality, but I have a friend who's been doing Avon for 20 years. I have a friend who's been doing Avon for more than 20 years. So I think that if she was constantly losing money, if she wasn't making any money, she would stop doing it, right? Like, she's a smart woman. And if she was losing that much money for 20 years and didn't notice it. So I think that it really is about how you approach it. And, you know, some of them really are predatory. LuLaRoe, if you watch that documentary, it is shocking because they told people you need to buy more and more and more leggings. And that was kind of their model. And that's why they got in a bunch of trouble, because it stopped being about the multi-level marketing. And really, they just tried to make their money selling the leggings to their independent contractors, and then they didn't give a fuck if they ever sold them. So it was kind of a different thing. But I feel like Avon is on that more benign level of MLM. I don't find that same sort of level. And maybe it's just because Avon is such a ubiquitous brand. Not anymore. Avon in the last decade has had some financial problems. But when I was growing up in the 80s, everybody had an Avon lady. Everybody was buying Avon products. It was just everywhere. Every garage sale you went to was collectible Avon perfume bottles. I mean, it just was everywhere. And so that has changed a little bit, but it still was much more integrated into the fabric of at least my Midwestern life in North Dakota in the 80s. So I joined it because I was buying a lot of Avon products, and I was very lucky that when I first joined Avon, I mean, I never joined any of these MLMs thinking I was going to make a huge successful business out of it. That was never my intention, so I was not going to be one of those people who was really suckered in by it at first anyway, because I was going into it with a different perspective. And I had a different perspective each time that we'll talk about. But I went into Avon just because I loved the product and I wanted a discount. And other people in our office liked it as well. And so the person who was selling it to us stopped selling it. And we all kind of looked around and we're like, well, we still want our Avon fix. I was like, I guess I volunteer as tribute. So I will be the one who sells Avon products. And I was lucky that at the beginning, there was somebody in our office who bought so much Avon. She bought a lot. A campaign at that time, I don't know if it's still the same, but a campaign catalog would run for 2 weeks. And then you could order from that catalog for the next 2 campaigns. So basically you had to buy your own catalogs. That was one of the ways that they ate into your profit, is you had to buy your own catalogs. But you could use a catalog. You didn't have to have every single one. You could use it for the next 2 or whatever. And anytime they sent you your package, they sent you one for free. So if you weren't putting them out all over and handing them out, if you just had one in a central location, you didn't have to buy any. But our catalogs and stuff, every 2 weeks when I would place an order, she usually ordered enough stuff that it paid for whatever I was ordering. So when you considered what I made off of her order, plus when you considered that I was ordering mine at that discount, I think it was 40% off. So I would get 40% of her sales, and then I would get 40% off mine, and she ordered enough that 40% from hers paid for whatever I was ordering most of the time. So I didn't really spend too much money. I spent a little here and a little there, it really kind of depended. But she was I mean, I don't throw around the word addicted a lot, but I wonder if there was maybe some shopping issues. But her husband had a ton of money. It didn't matter. So she wasn't not paying the light bill so she could buy 16 cases of bubble bath or shit like that. So, but she bought a lot. So this also reminds me, that particular woman, and you'll have to let me know if you're from the South, let me know down in the comments below, something that I learned from her that just blew my mind and I thought was really interesting. We were all in grad school together, and she had a 5-6-year-old kid, and she occasionally would bring him into the office. And, very Southern, very proper. And so he always had to address everybody with, their titles. So, say hello to Miss Leslie, say hello to Mr. Chris, all this kind of stuff. And then at one point, I remember hearing her talk to somebody else. It was one of the professors or something. And she said something like, say hello to Mr. Wilson. That was not his name, obviously, but whatever it was, she used his last name. And with us, she had used our first name. So one time when we were alone in the office, I asked her, I was like, what is that about? Why does your son call us Miss Leslie and Mr. Chris and Miss Nancy and all that kind of stuff? But with other people, it's the last name. And she said, that's something that we do in the South. And this is what I mean, where I don't know if this is a thing across the South, or maybe it was just her family or the area she was from, but it's so smart to me. They use that as a way to teach their kids who the safe people were. So if they got separated from their mom and they were upset and they needed help, if it was somebody that they addressed with their first name, that was somebody that they knew that they could go to. But if that was somebody that they knew that their mom and dad trusted, that was somebody who would help get them back home safe, all that kind of stuff. If it was somebody with the last name, it didn't mean that was a bad person. It just mean that we're not on that level with them. And I just thought that was so smart. I thought that was so good of you still treat everybody with respect. If somebody was an adult, they were always Miss or Mr. Mrs. whatever it was. But you had this way of giving this code of, if you're separated, if you're scared, if you're sad, you can go to Miss Leslie, you can go to Mr. Chris, don't go to Mr. Wilson. We don't know him like that. So let me know down below. I just thought that was fascinating. I don't raise kids. I don't want kids. I don't have kids. I just thought that was really an interesting way to build that in for your child, of teaching them respect and manners, but also giving them this code of like who is safe. That has fuck all to do with MLMs, but it just made me think of it because she was such a like fancy Southern lady that it just is tied up with my experience with Avon. So I hope you enjoyed that side story that went nowhere. You're welcome. So that was my experience with Avon. Once she graduated, she had been in grad school longer than I had, so she graduated and moved. My career with Avon was over soon after that because I was like, oh, now I have to pay for all this shit that I'm ordering. Maybe we'll stop that. Because I ordered a lot of Avon, but I never had to order that much before. But then I got into the habit of ordering lots and lots of Avon. So I just was like, let's be done. And a lot of the people who were really interested in Avon kind of, they fell out of it or whatever. They weren't needing that constant supply. So I just kind of fell out of it, and I found other products. I found other skincare that I liked better. So I moved on from that Avon world, but it was a soft spot. I do miss it. It was fun, and I got to see new products, and you got little product previews, and sometimes you got free little bonuses for your sales and stuff. So I had a lot of fun with Avon. Now, a couple of years after I took my little foray into Avon, I was ready to dive into the MLM pool again with...
Do I make you horny, baby?
Passion parties. I was an independent consultant for passion parties. And the reason why I got into it is that I had worked at our local adult bookstore for about 1.5 years. I have never had a problem with sexuality, sex toys, porn, all that kind of stuff. Human sexuality to me, I think, is something where we just put too much emphasis, we put too much pressure on ourselves. Sex is supposed to be fun. And so I had worked at the porn store, and one of the things that I did there, which I didn't do very much, I did not get that job to work hard, trust me. But one of the things I did do there is I was always trying to look at the toys and figure out how can queer people use these toys to maximize their pleasure. Because obviously, a gay man who has a dildo might use it differently than a woman who has a dildo. And a trans person might have different needs for sex toys. And how do we, like, navigate all this new non-binary stuff that's coming out? That's a new question for sex toys, in terms of so much of it is kind of gendered and all this kind of shit. And so I really went into it with the idea of, I want to help queer people enjoy sex more. And so it was really about looking at the toys that we had, looking at the floor models, the sort of sample toys that we have, obviously not used for real life, but really kind of figuring out how could people look for toys that would stimulate their sexual practices, not just what you always think about. I mean, not that anything on this channel is ever for kids, but obviously this section of the video we're going to get a little bit more explicit. But one of the things that is really important to keep in mind is, if you think about vibrators that have the little animal, like the little rabbit or some sort of little critter on it, men can absolutely use those and have a good old time, because that little clitoris stimulator that's on the front, whip it around, and guess what? Your taint is the doorway to your male G-spot, to the perineum, the taint, if you will. So when you are looking at vibrators that have those little critters, it's important to look at what the curve is, because that curve to use a toy anally and have it wrap around and touch the perineum is different than someone who is using it on a vagina and is trying to get it to touch the clitoris. You can have less space between the critter and the vibrator if you're using it on a vagina. If you're using it anally to get to the perineum, you want something that's got a little bit more generous of a curve, that's got a little bit more room to get in there. Trust me, I've road tested it. And so those are the kinds of things that I wanted to make sure that people weren't buying toys that were going to rip, where maybe like the rubber or whatever the material is was going to rip because you're pushing that animal too far out, things that have more generous curves, how to use different toys. This is something that you should take to heart. I don't know whoever started making anal beads with actual like cloth thread in between the beads. Run. Don't walk. Run. How are you ever going to get those clean? Do not put something that's got cloth fabric sort of thread strings in between the beads into your bumhole and then take it out again and think you're ever going to put that anywhere but the garbage. Don't do it. So that's the kind of thing I wanted to do. I wanted to help people talk about sexuality and find things that would really help with their sexuality. And I really wanted to support queer people. And I did some of that. But do you know who mostly booked me? Midwestern, unsatisfied farm wives. That's who it was. Because they thought it was an interesting juxtaposition that this like trashy drag queen that they saw at a drag show could sell them a vibrator. And so I went to so many little parties where people just told me about how bad in bed their husbands were. And I set up all my toys and showed them off, and we laughed and joked and whatever. And I made some money. It's another one of those things where I made some money and I did some shopping for myself. I got some things at a discount. I am also very sexually liberated, so it was a good time, but I wasn't finding my way to connect with the people I wanted to connect with. And so I tried doing some workshops and some different things, but I just couldn't do the things I wanted to do and really find the audience out there. Maybe I'm the only queer that wanted to talk about sex positivity at the time. Maybe I was ahead of the curve. I don't know what it was, but I just could not talk to one more bored farm wife about how this vibrator was going to change her life, because it was too much. It was too much. And I didn't realize that one thing that they did is that I actually put a little bit of money into getting a lot of the different like toys and the different like display models. I didn't realize that every 6 months they would like clear out half their catalog and get all new toys. Nobody prepared me for that. So that's part of it that's a little bit manipulative, is that they sell you on this like kit that you get when you first start up, and then they like give you all these different opportunities to buy things at a deep discount so you can have a bigger like show kit. But then they discontinue a whole bunch of products and bring out a whole bunch of new products. And I was like, oh, if that's going to keep happening, oh, I'm not on board with that. So I got out of that. I think I was in that for less than a year, maybe 6 months, 9 months, somewhere in there. But it was kind of fun. I made a little money. I got some fun toys. We had some fun parties, but I just couldn't really do with it what I wanted to do. Now let's get to my third MLM experience. This is the one that's a little bit controversial. I've seen a couple videos about this. I think one was Illuminati, which that's a whole thing. I don't watch drama channels, so I don't know everything that's happened with Illuminati, but I know that there's been drama and trauma. But I think that Illuminati maybe did a video on Tyra Beauty. I got into Tyra Beauty because I was at a vendor show. So Angie and I packed up the car with our handmade jewelry and we went down to Moorhead and we went to this vendor show and had kind of a shitty day. I did, at least. And I didn't really make back my booth rent. And I also ended up spending money because I found a woman who was selling Tyra Beauty. I had never heard of that before. And she had these products on her table. She scraped a couple things into like little plastic containers so I could have some samples. And I really liked it. I really liked what I tried. It seemed really good. And I was looking at the brochure and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this out. So I ordered some makeup from her because I wanted to do a review on my website. And unfortunately, the old version of my website that had the review is gone. And there were some good things that I found. One thing that I wish I could still get. Honestly, I'm still in mourning for the Tyra Cream Contour Stick. Because that contour stick, I still have some. I mean, they're old. It's been maybe 5, 6, maybe 7 years since I was a Tyra Beauty tainer. And I still have a couple that are like in the box that I'm holding on to. I love them. So this is the Tyra Sculpt in a Stick. This is, when they first launched, there were 2 shades. There was light and deep. This is deep. Obviously, they came out later with deeper than deep, so they had a third option. But this contour stick, I've gone through so many of these. I bought them for myself at a discount when I was a beauty tainer. When they kicked all the beauty tainers out, which we'll get to in a minute, I bought a few on clearance. They gave us like credit towards things that were in our account. I used that credit on makeup wipes and contour sticks. I love them. This one is still in the box. I just love it so much. And I found things that are similar, and I found things that are good enough, but I've never found anything as good as these contour sticks. And she had a setting spray that she discontinued while I was still a beauty-tainer, and I was sad. It smelled like blood orange, and it was the best setting spray I have ever used in my life. Now, contrast that with the Sculpt in a Stick. I would still buy that today. The makeup wipes I would still buy today. That setting spray I would still buy today if I could. But then there were things, there was this palette, this little eyeshadow palette, that was a big piece of cardboard and had 4 little skinny pans of eyeshadow. And it was $39. And it was like these very nude shades. The reason why it was so big and bulky, it had a cutout because it did come with a brush. And it was like an angled eyeshadow brush, which if you have never used an angled eyeliner brush, that will change your life. You absolutely need one of those, especially if you have trouble with wings and you have trouble getting in front of your eye and you feel like you can't see in the mirror. Get an angled eyeliner brush. Seriously, it will change your life. But this came with an angled eyeshadow brush to make it easier to get in so you could still see in the mirror. But that brush and these little tiny dick pans of eyeshadow were $39. Now, I don't know what was going on, and of course there's been so many exposés saying that Tyra is a terrible person, and she kept saying how she went to Harvard Business School, and she didn't. She got some online certificate through a Harvard continuing education, but she went on America's Next Top Model about how she went to Harvard and all this kind of bullshit. And she was drama from the very beginning. Very early on after I got in, there was some meeting where then afterwards there were all these emails going through our like Tyra email system where they're like, these people are no longer a part of Tyra, don't talk to them, don't listen to them, everything is a lie, everything that they're saying is not true, because these two people like split. They claimed that they quit, Tyra claimed that they were fired, and they were saying Tyra is going to discontinue the MLM part of this makeup company. They're like, Tyra is just using the beauty-tainer to build up buzz and to get sales and to establish this brand. Then they're going to go into retail locations and cut off the direct sales. They said, do not trust her. This is all. And they were like, these people violated NDAs. We're going to sue them. Now, what they didn't say, and the thing underneath it that people maybe should have been a little bit more aware of, is that they never said that they were lying. They said, we're going to go after them legally because they violated NDAs. So people should have known that, like, the writing was on the wall. So those two got, like, fired and kicked out or whatever. Then a few months later, there was another leadership meeting, and now, like, 2 more people quit or got fired or whatever, and they were saying, Tyra is going to discontinue the direct sales. They're going to go retail. Do not trust this bitch. She's crazy. Like, and they're like, no, we don't know what they're talking about. They're violating NDAs. All yeah. And it was the same story. 2 months later, they announced, we love our beauty-tainers, but we've decided to go in a different direction. We're going to let you sell for the next, like, month and a half, blah, blah, blah. And really did screw over people who had really invested a lot in their Tyra business. Now, again, I never got into it thinking I was going to make any money. I had a couple parties and I kind of shared it because I really did like the products. I really enjoyed them, and so I shared them with people, and if I sold a few things, that's fine, but I was my own best customer. I went in knowing I was going to be my own best customer. And again, if I could still buy those fucking Sculpt in a Stick contour sticks, I absolutely would. I adore them. It hurts my heart that they are gone. And the makeup wipes, there were these little, I know it sounds wasteful, but there were these little independent, like each one was in its own thing, and it was a dry cloth, and there was a little reservoir of liquid, and you would press down in the middle, and it would open up the reservoir so that it would soak into the dry cloth and pop out. And it sounds really wasteful, but the idea was that the little plastic things were recyclable. Well, that assumes that you recycle them. And it also assumes that it's part of the 5% of recyclable plastics that actually end up making it to recycling. So it was kind of wasteful, it was kind of gross, but those makeup wipes, I have never had the kind of experience that I had with those makeup wipes until I started using a double cleanse, until I started doing like an oil-based makeup remover, like the Jeffree Star Skin Make Me Melt, or the Zero Cleansing Balm. Until I started using a cleansing balm, I've never had an experience like that. Those Tyra Pop It Clean wipes, I could use 2 of those to take off a full drag beat. With typical makeup wipes, it was taking me 5, 6, 7 wipes each time to cut through this clown face. And the Tyra Poppet Cleans, I swear to God, could do it in 2. I really, really did love those products, but it was just so sketchy. And there were some people, even that I knew from my little circle of the beauty tainers, that were big mad. They felt so betrayed, and they just were so angry about the whole situation. But, I mean, we had gotten 2 warnings before they sent out the announcement, so the fact that they were that surprised was a little bit of a concern. I was like, how are you this surprised? But it really was. She did her beauty tainers dirty. And then they apparently never found a retail partner. They never did, as far as I can tell, ever move into a retail location. I mean, she is kind of a bitch, and I know people are always all in their feelings about who you support and don't support. I fucking support myself. If I could still buy those contour sticks, I would buy those fucking contour sticks. Because I support me, bitch. I support me and this hooker clown face. That's what I support. And if I could still get those contour sticks, I would give her my money and just cry all the way home with my contour sticks because I love them. I love them so much. So those are my experiences with MLMs. I don't have any hard feelings, but I have also kind of figured out that I don't think MLMs are for me. Now, if there was something non-makeup related, maybe I would do it. And maybe we'll do like a full face of Avon at some point. I haven't tried Avon makeup for 100 years. So maybe I should order a bunch of Avon makeup from my friend. Because that's the thing, is people forget that. I know it's annoying when people you don't know and don't talk to and haven't seen since high school come out of the woodwork and they're like, hey, hun. They send the Hun Army after you. Like, I get it, that's annoying. But I have friends who are legit friends who are part of MLMs. And however I feel about MLMs, I fucking love my friends. So if I can spend a little money and support them, if they feel like they're getting their money's worth out of it, you know what? Who am I to tell them that they're making poor decisions? You know, like I said, my friend who does Avon has done it for more than 20 years. If she was really having that bad of a time, she'd have gotten out by now. And so, you know what? I'm not going to tell them what to do with their lives. And from time to time, if I want to try a little something, I'm going to order from them. Now, I have a friend who does Senegence, which is the lip sense. I haven't ordered any of that from her just because my lips get really, really dry and chapped. And the thing with lip sense is that the main ingredient is denatured alcohol. And so it really can dry out your lips. I'm a little worried about that, even with the glosses and all that kind of stuff. So I haven't ordered from her, but I haven't ordered, not because I want to protest her MLM or whatever. She does it. She seems to like it. She has done it for several years, as long as I've known her. So she must be at least getting what she feels she needs to get out of it. So if I was going to order some lip sense, if I decided I wanted to try it, I would order from her because these are my friends. Sometimes you have to like bend a little bit. These Gen Z kids nowadays are just so rigid about some things. And you know what? If I have friends who are selling this shit, I might be like, hey, do you know that MLMs are sometimes predatory and maybe not great? But I'm still going to buy shit from them. I mean, if I had a friend who was selling LuLaRoe, I might buy the weird Halloween leggings if they had them in my size and be like, here, let me help Underground Railroad you out of this cult that you're in. And then I would show them the documentary on Amazon Prime because LuLaRoe, honestly, if you have not seen it, if you hate MLMs, you should watch that documentary because it will confirm everything that you feel. But I also feel like every MLM is not LuLaRoe. So I'm conflicted about it, but I'm just like, I don't know. I'm going to support my friends. But also, I've also come to terms with the fact that, you know, maybe it would change, but MLM makeup companies are not made for me. They're not made for big hooker clowns like me. The way that MLMs sustain themselves is you have to get customers who are going to keep ordering from you and keep ordering from you. So how do you do that? You don't find the bitch like me who orders makeup several times a week and has boxes and boxes coming in, because those people are following the trends. Like, I might order from a brand today. I might not order from them again for a year and a half until they have something that just strikes my fancy. They need people who are going to buy the same products, who want a routine. Tyra, I feel like, had a really good easy, like 4-step makeup system. If you didn't want to overthink your makeup and you wanted a simple, foolproof, everyday kind of makeup look, she did a great kit for you. It was fantastic. The Tyra products were good quality for the most part. So it's not going to work for me though, because I'm always buying from different brands. I'm not loyal to a system. I'm not looking for someone to give me my base product and my contour and a quick 5-minute face. This is not a 5-minute face. This is not a face for anyone. This is a face of your nightmares. I'm probably some of your sleep paralysis demons, but this is not a 5-minute face. So it's just never gonna be for me. I've tried Unique. I tried the fiber mascara. I knew somebody that was selling it, and so I bought some so that I could write a review of it. But it's just never gonna be what I need or what I want. It's always too expensive because they have to build in those commissions for the salesperson and their direct report and their direct report and their direct report. So it's always going to be more than I want to pay. It's going to be too neutral and basic for what I want. It's just never going to be for me. Maybe if some big drag queen hooker clown MLM shows up where they do new colors and they do lots of kits and lots of different things, maybe I would get on board with that. But it's just not for me. It's not my journey. So I don't regret having been down that MLM road these 3 times. I had fun. I learned some things, but it's definitely not for me going forward. So let me know what you think about MLMs. Let me know what you think about the MLMs that I was a part of. If you've been a part of any, let me know your experiences down below. Did you find them predatory? Did you find them to be exploitative? I mean, I think at some point, you have to know that if you're getting into anything that is a small business, you're going to, in some ways, get what you put into it. So this idea that you're going to somehow work like 2 hours and spend the rest of the time playing with your kids, that's a fantasy. So if you took what they were selling about independence and you thought that's what it was going to be, I feel like some of that is on you as well. I think there has to be some personal responsibility. I went into it knowing that if I thought I was going to like join the ranks, I was going to have to work and push it. And I didn't want to do that. I just wanted some cheaper makeup. I wanted some sex toys. I wanted to talk about queer pleasure and all this kind of stuff. That's what I wanted to do. So in some ways, I think that they can be manipulative and exploitative, but I also think that we need to talk about personal responsibility. But let me know. Maybe you don't agree. Let me know in the comments below. And you know what? Give me that thumbs up to tell me you like this video. But if you don't agree with me, give me that thumbs down. Tell me I am a bitch. I don't understand how these people are being drawn in. I'm not very sympathetic, blah, 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 whatever it is. It's all engagement. The algorithm isn't a picky bitch, and neither am I. Girl boss that, bitch. While you're down there, you can also hit that subscribe button, become part of the Champagne Dreamer family. I would love to have you. I try really hard most of the time to make sure you get at least 1 video a week. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you might even get a bonus video. Ooh, sales goals-erific. If you'd like to chat, banter, or commiserate between uploads, all of my social media will be linked down in the description box below, including a link to my website, The World of Champagne, at JanessaJaye.com. Gaslight, Gatekeep, Girlboss. Thank you so much for watching. I love and appreciate all of you. I hope you enjoyed this little trip down my MLM memory lane, and until I see you again, bye. You're an independent contractor who is selling products on behalf of another country. On behalf of another...
Some of them might be...
You're saying they ain't American!
They ain't American, unless it's Amway. And I have a friend... What are you doing over there?
Shaping your face.
Because I keep hearing...
What? You must have, like, amazing... Like, that is crazy. Your hearing must be better than most.
I'm also going to cut together a super cut of all of Angie's
You're not going to
noises.
hear a lot of it.
You 100% will. And had a really shitty day.
Oh, no, I did really well.
You did really well?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
I mean, really well in comparison to other things. I think it was like $150, $200 or something.
Well, aren't you fancy? And if I could still buy those contours, come play with us, Danny. You can gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss with us forever and ever and ever.